crafters, and welcome back. My name is Deepa from DeeZinesByD, and today I have a Halloween card to share with you. So I'm using some products from Scrappy Tales, including the spiderweb stencil and the stamp set, and I'm going to be making this card with some glitter paste. So as I said, here's the stamp set. It's got a whole bunch of cute little images, a very stylish witch. There's 2 images of her and all of those other little bits and sentiments, the spiderweb stencil, and then I have these embellishments that I'm going to be using, and they come with the Halloween card kit. And I will mention that that's one of the main reasons I got the card kit. I love those embellishments. So let's go ahead and start with our glittering or our glitter paste. I've got my stencil and a card base or a card panel that's 5 by 7. I'm going to end up cutting this to size, so it's just a little bit bigger in terms of length. And I'm going to be using my Bo Bunny glitter paste. Now I went and I grabbed my wasabi, and as you can see, it's hardened. So I'm actually going to be using some pearlescent embossing paste and some glitter. You're going to need a spatula to do this. So I'm going to be making my own glitter paste, and I'm using what I have on hand. I don't have any clear or transparent paste or texture paste or embossing paste, but I would recommend using the transparent kind. So I've got a craft mat here to protect my surface, and I'm taping my stencil to my card base. Now I would recommend actually using maybe some pixie spray because I got a bit of leakage through the stencil, so that would probably be the better way to go. And now I'm just grabbing my embossing paste. Now remember, this is opalescent. So this, it worked, but it didn't 100% work. I fixed it in the end, and I'll show you how I do that. But I definitely recommend going and getting transparent embossing paste when you're making your own glitter paste. So as you can see, I've taken out some of my embossing paste, and I've just dumped a bunch of that green glitter on there, and I'm mixing it all together to get like a uniform mixture so that I'm not going to have any splotchiness. Now I realized that the opalescence of this paste kind of masks the glitter shine, so I decided to add some lime ink, and this is Alta New ink. I just picked any ink that I had around that seemed to match this color, and I just mixed it all together, so now some of the opaqueness of the paste is going to pick up the green. And you can see in the end, it makes a pretty decent paste. I'm only really going to put this in the center of my stencil because I want it to be in the center of that web. And then I'm going to kind of mix it a little bit and blend it into the Grape Bo Bunny glitter paste and then to the licorice. But it's not going to be as shiny as the other 2 glitter pastes. So this is how I'm going to fix that. Once I've got my paste on that web stencil where I want it, I'm just going to go back and grab the glitter and just sprinkle it on top again. And I think I end up just kind of dumping a whole bunch on top because it looked a little uneven, and the more glitter on top, the more even it looked. And then any extra glitter I just kind of tapped it off and then collected it to put back into my bottle. I think there wasn't too much of it, so I just used my Swiffer cloth to pick up some of it as well, and I just kind of tossed it. But you can see once you put on a bit more glitter, it has a more shiny and uniform look. Okay, so I'll clear all of that away and move on to my Grape glitter paste here. Now, my Grape glitter paste was starting to dry out, but hadn't dried out yet, so it was a little thicker than it should be. So I had a bit of trouble kind of getting it onto my stencil in, a nice smooth fashion. So, and I'm also trying to mix it with that green glitter paste in the center, or my makeshift homemade glitter paste. And you can run into some problems when you're trying to mix something that's a little bit thicker and harder with something that's smoother and thinner, right? So I had a little bit of a problem kind of blending the purple into the green, but it ended up looking decent in the end. And when I added the licorice black glitter paste, it mixed so perfectly with that purple one. It was so nice. So I kind of wish I'd put the purple one on first and then the green and the black. But then again, I added the glitter to the green, so that wouldn't have worked either. So, just make sure you have glitter paste, or your paste in general are all good to go and are not drying out. So you're going to see here with the black that it's so nicely and smoothly goes on, because this was actually a new jar. I had it for a while, but it actually still had the seal on it and it was kept all nice and well. So it went on so nicely and worked out so perfectly. I think, I don't know that all of these Bo Bunny supplies are available, but I have links to products or equivalent products in my blog, which is linked in the description below. So you can always go ahead and check those out. anything new will work perfectly and your blending will be way better. Another tip I want to add here is when all of your pastes work nicely and they're new, you can get through this process a little faster. And when you do it a little faster, it's easier to get your stencil off of the paper. And I had a little bit of trouble getting that off because I had it on there a bit too long. Another thing I want to mention is I just went in with a paper towel and kind of just blotted the line between the two colors to kind of help the blending and soften it up a bit. So once I pull that stencil off, you can see there's a little bit of seepage underneath in certain areas, and in other areas it's a little bit thicker than others. But I mean, that's part of the artistic effect. So I just went with it. I hate scrapping stuff, especially when I put so much into it like this. So let's go ahead and make this work for our card. So now I've gone ahead and cut this panel down to size. It's completely dried, and I'm actually going to cut the circle out of the center. And what I'm showing you here is that I picked a circle die that's going to fit the sentiment that I want to add, which is very important. So once I've got that where I want it, I'll cut out the circle and I'll keep that aside. Don't throw that away. I'm going to use it on the inside of my card. So now I'm creating a card base that's going to be 5 inches by 6 inches. And the thing with this is my stencil is actually just a little bit smaller. So in the end, I'm going to go ahead and cut off an extra 1/4 of an inch. So in the end, this card base is actually going to be 5 3/4 by 5 inches. So now that I've kind of figured out the size of my card base and I know where I want to put the panel on my card, I'm actually going to draw some pencil lines. So I'm going to mark each of the 4 corners and also the circle in the center with my pencil. So now I'm just going to place this card base in my MISTI. I can go ahead and put it in folded because I've got nothing on there and it'll still stamp nicely. I'll line up the stamp from the stamp set that I want to use and stamp it out with some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And keep in mind, I'm stamping this into that circle because I want the sentiment to show through the background. Now I have another piece of cardstock here, and since I have my MISTI out and I'm stamping already, I'm going to just go ahead and stamp the other stamps that I want to use for this card, which include the witch, and then I'm also going to add the little cat and broom afterwards. I'm just using some Copic Safe ink here. This is some Spectrum Noir Finesse Flagstone ink. It's flagstone, meaning it's like a dark gray, but it actually looks black to me. So you can see that stamps out nicely, and here you can see I'm adding the cat and the broom. And the cat and the broom I added because I'm going to be using them on the inside of the card with that extra circle that we had cut out of the front. So keep all of those little pieces aside to use later on. I'm very sorry that some of my video footage is a bit off. It's not completely in the center of the camera. I just actually readjusted my crafting area and my video setup, so I actually have to get used to my field of view again. So very, very sorry for that. So here, what I'm doing is I'm taking some foam tape. So the foam tape that I'm using is Creative Expressions foam tape. You could also use something that is a little thicker, and if you don't have thick foam tape, you can always double it up and use it that way. It's good to have a bit of space in between the 2 layers of your shaker card so that your shaker bits have space to move. And you can see I ran out of my white tape, so I'm using some black, and all I really did was just create a well. It doesn't matter what shape it is. Mine's like a pentagon. As long as it makes that circle in the center enclosed so nothing's going to come out of it, it'll work perfectly. So now I've erased my pencil mark because I don't want those to show, and that's okay because I still have the 4 corners where I've marked it to line up my panel. So now you can see that I'm just using my Tombow Mono dot runner, nothing too fancy, to adhere some acetate to the front panel. This way all of my shaker bits are going to be contained within the card. And then I also have to add some more foam tape to the rest of my card base outside of the shaker element so that my card panel or the front panel is going to sit nice and flat on my card base, and there's going to be no bending or buckling when everything is put together. So once I've got all of my foam pieces on there, I like to take off the backing for the pieces that are not part of the shaker. I accidentally did take off one of them, but the other ones I left on because sometimes I find when you add your shaker pieces, they start sticking. So I like to take them off afterwards. So I'm actually using a scoopula, which is, if you've If you remember your science classes, you've probably used this, but there are other kind of scoops that you on the market that you can buy. You can use just you could even use the little embellishment, the little trays to kind of just put them in a tray and then funnel it into your little area there. And now I've removed the release paper and I'm showing you I still have those tick marks on the four corners, and this is what's helping me line this up. Sorry if my head gets in the way. But now I've got it all nice and lined up with those marks and I can adhere it nicely. Make sure that you press right around the shaker circle to make sure everything is adhered and that those embellishments aren't going to fly anywhere. So now we're going to get to coloring those cute little images that we stamped out earlier. And I'm just going to list all of the colors that I'm using. Now, I find it a little hard to color in Halloween images. And that's mainly because they're darker, and when you're using colors like black and dark purple, it's really easy to lose the lines in your stamped image. So one thing I like to do is first of all kind of lay out my highlights. So I've got my lighter green and I'm placing that in everywhere that I want to highlight on this witchy woman. And then once I've got that down, I'll go ahead and place down the black around those highlights and then I'll blend it in. So I like to use this tip to tip touching method. I'll take the lighter color and touch the tip to the tip of the darker color, holding the darker color at the bottom. And it kind of picks up some of the darker color and creates a medium tone between the two markers so that you can kind of blend those two colors together. So if ever you don't have an actual medium color, this is what you can do. Now, I'm by no means no Copic coloring expert, as you can probably tell, but this is what seems to work for me. So now I can kind of color in the rest of this witch gown and maintain all of those green highlights while still being able to blend them. And then in the end, what you end up with is a nice black witch gown, which also shines like a nice spooky green, which matches the glitters or the glitter paste that we used on the front panel. So that was the whole reasoning behind all these colors. So once I think I've pretty much blended out the gown and how that's going to look, I'm going to go ahead and start coloring in her legs, which are probably some nice tights. So I'm probably going to use a purple for that. And then I'll probably keep the shoes more of a black as well. So you can see if you colored everything in black, you really would just see a shadow of an image, right? So that's why all the highlights in coloring darker images, like Halloween images, are really important. And that's why I don't do so well with it, because I'm always horrible at keeping highlights in my drawings. Lucky for you, I have a little tip for highlights, which I will show you at the end. And once I get to that, I will definitely mention it and let you know, because this is what I kind of have to depend on, because as I said, I'm not that great with highlights. I'm very good at darkening, but highlights, I don't know. They just kind of go over my head. So for the cauldron, you can see I've added some purple in there, and that purple is going to be the highlight of my cauldron, or the highlight color, and then I'll color the rest in black. The bubbles, I'm kind of making them a mix of the green and purple, kind of like the green and purple in the spider web. And I will also color in like the top brim of the cauldron and the actual stick in brown. As I've mentioned, I'm not doing anything too complicated here. It's just basic Copic coloring. Nothing fancy at all. Since I have the brown in my hand, once I'm done with that wooden stick and the brim of the cauldron, I'm going to go ahead and color in the wood at the base of the fire. And I've tried my best to list all the colors here so you can see what I've used. If there's anything that's missing, as I've said before, I've had everything linked in my blog, which is linked through the description below. So now I'll use some oranges and yellows to go ahead and color in that fire and get that all nice and warmed up and get the cauldron bubbling. And then I'll move on to this black cat, which is, again, a nightmare for me because it's black. So I've added a bit of brown, and that's going to be my highlight, but I'm realizing that I really have to leave like a little bit of a gap between the line of the stamp and the black marker, and that's what creates that highlight, which separates each part of the cat so that you can actually make out all of the different sections. And then once that's done, don't forget to add a little bit of pink for the little ears. And you can see I'm using a colorless blender to kind of blend out the black a little bit too, and to create the highlight. So now I'll just finish off my coloring with the broom here, and I'm just adding some brown for the broomstick and some peachy color, a peachy, I think that's EO5, and then some yellow for the base of the broom. And here's my little trick, a white jelly roll pen, and I would die without this thing because now by adding this as the highlights, I'm also going to use it to kind of outline the whiskers so it kind of looks like there's a shine on it, and it helps me get all of those details out in my drawings, especially when I don't keep my highlights. So that's my little trick for adding highlights to your Copic coloring. It makes a big difference, and it takes 2 seconds at the end to just kind of add little lines here and there where you think the light would be shining upon your image. And even if you put it somewhere where the light isn't going to shine, it's not at the right angle, no one's going to notice. It still looks really cool. So once I've got all of these images nice and colored in, there is a coordinating die set that comes with the stamp. Well, it doesn't come with it, but you can buy it, both of them together as a bundle, or you can buy the coordinating die separately. I think they work out to the same price, but it really just makes it much easier for you to cut all of these cute little images out. I don't have it, so I'm going to do some fussy cutting, and I won't bore you through all of that. I'll just show you the cut up images, but definitely if you get the stamp set, I do recommend getting the dies. So once again, with the magic of television, I have all my images cut out now. So now I'm going to go ahead and add this witchy cauldron lady to the front of my card, just on the side of the shaker piece that we created. I'm adding some foam dots. Now, these are foam dots that are not two-dimensional. I have a lot of dimension on this card because of the shaker element, so I don't want to make it too thick and bulky if, for example, I maybe want to put it through the mail. So once I've got my lady on there, I'm going to go ahead and move to the inside of the card, and you can see I've grabbed that circle that we cut out from the front, and I'm just going to place it in the bottom left corner of the inside of the card. And then I'm going to add that little cat in the broom on the inside. So I always love to show you how I design the insides of my cards because I really like to have it coordinating with the outside. I can't leave it blank for some reason. I know a lot of people like it blank because they like to write and put whatever they want in it, but I like to have just a little something so that it coordinates with the front. And not only that, it really doesn't take you too much time. So I added 3 extra two fussy cut pieces and then a circle. And now I'm just going to stamp a sentiment with a little bat. Now you can see I'm setting it up on the side of my stamping platform because I have so much dimension on the front half of the card, so I wouldn't be able to close my lid. So this is the makeshift way of making your stamp platform work for you. So I've placed another sentiment from that stamp set, which works perfectly for the inside of the card, and I've got the little bat on there, and I'm just going to stamp those out with some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, and I'm actually going to double stamp it, and you can see you can use this method and have half of your card hanging off the platform and still double stamp with complete accuracy and precision. So now let's use some of those other beautiful embellishments. I really love these. I love that you've got the purple, the green, the black, and the orange. And I think the thing that I like most about the embellishments, all of them, even if you got the Harvest Blessings kit as well, there's a large variation in sizes. So there's I think there's about 5 sizes. There's a really small, a little bit bigger, bigger. And the biggest size is the normal size that you see for the biggest size, maybe 5 millimeters. So if you're like me and embellishments are basically like your life, well, not your life, but you love them as much as I do, I definitely recommend the card kits because the embellishments that come with them speak for themselves, and they coordinate so nicely with all of the beautiful stamps, dies, and stencils that come with it. So when I'm using these embellishments, I'm really trying my best to kind of cover up some of the messiness in the stenciling that I kind of had with this. I've got a bit of gel that's in the white spaces, so I'm trying to cover that up with some of the gems, and hopefully that works. And yeah, that is my card for today. So I hope that you guys have been inspired to make some Halloween makes from this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out the Scrappy Tales store. Everything that I've used is listed in the blog link below, and there's also a link to the the store below, which is an affiliate link, and I get a little bit of a compensation if you do purchase through that link, and it's no extra cost to you. So I hope you all have a great day. You've been inspired, and I hope to see you again. Bye.